So we are back to continue our intermediate collage. Our collage for the intermediate study is based on Day of the Dead, which is a celebration of life for loved ones and people that you are fond of, people that you want to celebrate and remember. If you are doing collage, you've picked up your paper and goods from the public library and you're just not into this whole theme or idea, then just remember as you are working that collage is a piece of art made with paper, scissors, and glue. So you can make anything with paper, scissors, and glue. Any piece of art, any idea that you have. So the idea is to express yourself and to have fun. We're gonna finish this piece. I have so far worked on the kind of bottom section of my collage. I am remembering George O'Keeffe, and I have so far her skull. I looked loosely at some books that I have that I pull from during the school year, and so I looked at these, maybe some of the exaggerations, the stylized look, and then went from there for my piece. And then I started thinking about who George O'Keeffe was as an artist, what she's known for. And so I started to create poppies to put at the bottom of my collage. And I think I ended with the poppy leaves here. So let's take a few moments to go back. We were working on this part of the jaw, and I told you that it didn't matter, you didn't have to measure the paper because you could just glue it down. And now I'm going to turn it over, and now I'm going to actually cut. Notice that I'm on the back part, and I'm just cutting the extra off. No need to measure and take all that extra time. I'm just going to turn it over and then cut off the extra pieces. Sometimes I keep these pieces, I might need them. Other times I just kind of move them over to my trash pile. And so now I have my stylized mouth area with the lips. And I'm starting to kind of place everything on my paper. If you've been following this piece with me, you'll notice that my background has automatically gotten darker. Well, I just wasn't happy with how light the other blue was, and I thought that this darker blue would play well with the green leaves and the red of the poppy. So now I'm going to take this brighter green, and the idea with collage is layering. We are layering the color, color on top of color. So different reds being layered together, different greens being layered together to create an interesting effect. And so that's how you're adding detail. When you're not adding detail with sometimes drawing detail, you can add detail with color that's being layered, putting on top, sometimes with different shapes. Okay. So I still haven't glued anything down to my background paper. I am not ready for that. I'm gonna do that in just a little bit. When you're using your glue, this is a good time for you to learn control of just using dots of glue, not squeezing hard, just gently letting the glue come out of the nozzle. If you get too much on your paper, just take your fingers and wipe it, or you can just leave it there and let it dry. So I'm going to come now and work on the middle of my poppy. I printed this poppy earlier for my watercolor piece that I did a week or so ago. And I'm coming back around to that for this, and maybe you're needing to go with help and with supervision, going online to see some different details that you want to add for your piece. I'm going to work here in this middle part of the flower. It looks like there are black stamens here, and then the poppy pod in the middle, and this time the poppy pod looks a brownish color. So I'm going to pull those colors out. And remember, when we are making collages, whether you're creating something symmetrical like I am, or whether you're creating something that is asymmetrical is different on both sides. Either way, if you want to make more than one object, remember we are folding the paper so that you can get more than one. So I have 2 poppies. I'm going to want more than 1 poppy pod. And I'm just going to look at my drawing and kind of get an idea of the shape. And I'm going to draw that and then cut it out while the paper is still folded. I turn my paper more than I turn my scissors. Okay, so I have my poppy pod, and I'm going to open that, and I automatically have 2. I'm going to put that here in the middle of my poppy flower, my petals, but before I move on, I'm going to make an area of the black stamens that will go around. I'm going to cut my extra paper off this time, and I'm just going to cut, I'm not even drawing with a pencil this time, I'm just going to cut a basic oval, and then kind of put it here, see how I feel about the size, and I'm okay with that so far. And now I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to use my blade of my scissors to create texture. The idea that these are going to be raised up off of the middle of the flower. And so just to create some fun interest. I did that with the 2 pieces of paper, but if you don't feel good about that, then just do it one at a time. And without tearing, I'm not being very rough, I'm just going to take my fingers and manipulate or move my paper up. And I'm going to put my poppy pod back in and kind of see what I think about that. Okay. Just going to take just a little bit of glue and glue my middle down like so. And I'm going to take my pod and I've got my Georgia O'Keeffe poppy. I'm going to bring this other one down. I changed it a little bit. I didn't want the poppies to both be exactly the same. And so but I'm going to do the same for my middle. Bring these in a little bit. Okay. Add my glue. And my poppy pod. I'm putting the pod up just a little bit so that it's raised in the back with those stamens. So I'm slowly building my collage and continuing to add interesting detail to it. I'm going to take a moment to work on Georgia O'Keeffe's hair. What's fun about this piece is that we're memorializing her and who she was, and so we're going to give her some hair, maybe very similar to what she would have done with a bun. So I'm going to flip. If my skull is facing up, I need to flip it over so that it is going to be on the opposite side whenever I'm finished. So I'm going to draw a bun like so, and it's always easier to go back and make something less. It's really difficult to go back and make something more. Okay, so if I were to turn that over, we'll see if I did that correctly. And I need to know basically where to cut. I'm going to give myself an outline of that. If you are remembering or memorializing someone in your life, maybe you're looking at their picture, think about what their hair might look like as you're coming up with your idea. Okay. Let's see how I did. Okay. So I'm flipping everything over. This is how I drew it. And now I'm flipping it over like so. And I don't want this extra piece there, so I'm going to go ahead. I wasn't sure what that was going to look like, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. And this is what she will look like with her bun. I'm going to actually come and dip here just a little bit. I'm going to take just a few dots of glue. Kind of tack it down. And then I'm just going to come here. Sometimes when people have their hair parted, there's a little indentation. And so I'm going to add that indentation there, just a slight little detail. So much fun. That's one thing I love about art. I love collage, first of all. I just love the layering and the colors and what you're able to do. But I also love just how fun it is to be creative, to try new things, sometimes be a little zany with the idea of what you're trying to create. Just expressing your ideas in a new way. Okay, so I think I am ready. Now that I have some of these bigger details kind of hammered out, I think I want to go ahead and place her a little more specifically. See how I'm doing on my space. I'm going to take her features. Those kind of where I want. I'm going to play with my placement a little bit. Remember, as you're starting to put your collage together, that you're gluing your pencil sides down, or you're erasing your pencil marks. So if I would have done my hair incorrectly, and I wasn't happy with how that turned out, then I could have erased the markings and used it on the other side. So I'm going to move her up just a touch. And give her a slight bottom wardrobe. I'm not sure if she would have worn orange or not. She wore a lot of neutrals, but this color looks fun. It looks fun with the blue. So I'm going to try that. Sometimes you have an idea when you're creating and you just go full force with that idea. And then there are other times where you go back and you tweak your idea just a little bit and you change it. Originally, I was not going to add a top torso. But it's okay as you go and as you create. If you need to change something, if you have a different idea, a better idea. So I am finally starting to glue my pieces down to my background paper. And I'm starting with, because we're overlapping shapes and objects, I'm starting with everything laid out. But I started with my neck. I put the base here, and now I'm going to come to my head part. We do not want to drench the paper in glue. We're just still going to give just a few dots. We don't want it to take forever to dry. And sometimes, it shouldn't happen with the paper you're using, but sometimes papers curl up. It's trying a little bit with my black. That's why I keep having to press it down. But just a few dots of glue will help. Especially when you're overlapping and you're putting paper piece on top of paper piece. You have the glue on the bottom, and now you're going to add more glue on this. You don't want it to get too wet. Okay, so now I'm going to come with my poppy, and the idea to this orange torso that I've added is really just to kind of give a base for these poppies to kind of rise out of, and then I'm going to build my poppy plant from this area. So I am working with symmetry besides her parted bun, but it's for my piece, I'm going to have it almost the same on both sides. And so I like how this looks so far. So now I'm going to finally anchor my green down. Notice that I've left everything else where it is. I want to be able to see where I'm placing my pieces as I'm gluing down. I am overlapping the leaf over part of the hair bun. And I'm not gluing down every little piece. You're gonna see why in just a few moments as we add some finishing details. You can see on the back of my poppies, just from these two in front, it's still wet. Okay, so far I have my background, I have my Day of the Dead skeleton memorializing George O'Keeffe. I have some basic details like her side bun, and then I have her poppies that she loved so much and that she enjoyed painting. We're going to add some finishing details. You could go on and on and on. You could just keep adding and adding and adding details, but at some point just need to step away and let it be okay. I'm going to come now with the poppy pod that we saw from our collage inspiration, and I'm going to add, using this brighter green, this brighter paper, a stem up, and maybe add some poppy pods from this. Once again, wanting the same thing on both sides. Once again, if you're not doing symmetry, then that's not a big deal for you. You don't have to worry about getting the same. I think I do not want my pencil marks being shown, so I'm going to turn this. go ahead and cut my excess paper off so I can hold my paper better. Okay, let's see what we have. I glued some of my pieces better than I thought I did. Okay, well, I don't, for this piece, want anything to come up off. So what I'm going to do is shorten this a little bit and cut some of this off. So I'm going to put these back together. Make sure I get it about the same. Now reopen it. There we go. We will have these poppy pods coming out, and then they're going to end up framing kind of the whole piece and her head. Think about what details you can add to your collage. If you are not remembering fondly an artist, maybe you are remembering someone in your family. Think about what that family member loved or enjoyed doing. I'm going to use, I told you that I keep my scraps because I can reuse them or get smaller pieces out of areas that I've already done. I'm going to use this drawing that I had already created before, and I'm going to use it as a template to do some more of the poppy leaves. But I'm going to do it on a smaller scale. So to get the kind of basic shape, but just kind of smaller. open that, cut it in half on the fold, and let's see. Sometimes I play around and see where I want to put pieces. Maybe I want to double the leaves right here. Maybe I want to bring them up somehow up here. I did a pretty good gluing job there though, so I'm not so sure. I could bring them in the front and bring something down off of these flowers. But I think I'm gonna start right here by layering them here. Adding a little more of that bright green dimension. And just really kind of framing her with some of the things that she loved. Then I'm going to come back up to these top parts and just add my bits of glue to these poppy pods. And the last little pod. And there we go. Our Day of the Dead inspired